morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, it's amazing how things go sometimes. A few weeks ago, I recorded a song for YouTube with the Western Spirit Band. And it was a song, great cowboy song I've loved since the first time I heard it. We really enjoy doing it. Now, after it was posted, we got a lot of nice comments, including one from the guy who wrote it, the great Texas musician Chuck Cusimano. Well, one thing led to another, and Chuck and I had never met, but I knew he was raised on a ranch and earned his spurs as a working cowboy for a long time before his music career really took off. And the next thing you know, we had a great conversation, and I'm really happy to be able to share some of it with you today.
Get us out in the pasture and a cow gets away from us, you're liable to hear any. But you get us around public, and we use our manners that we were taught, because you get the bridle reins if you don't.
Baxter Black has a pretty interesting commentary on those cowboys who are really gifted with horses.
And the better they seem to be with horses, the more their attention seems to wander working cattle. Well, they can't help it. It's in their blood.
And the Rangeland News looks at some trends in the cattle business.
Placements into feedlots 28% higher than a year ago at 2 million head.
And don't miss the final item this week. It's all about my first big adventure going back into Wal Mart for the first time since the shutdown. And oh man, did I get into trouble. On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, I'll pick up where we left off last week. Let's say you're riding one horse, leading two, and you've got to go through a slipwire gate. How do you do it safely? And Ryan Fritz has just released his new album, Cow Pony. And how's this for something really appropriate for this time of year? It's called Branding Beer.
Well, we all ride out 6 a.m., friends and neighbors out gathering, driving cattle to the branding pen. I can't believe it's that time again. The herd just spits and the sorting starts. Best horse in the gate, ropers on guard. If a calf makes a break to the open plain, they'd catch him pretty quick and drag him back in. Beer break! Oh, Brandon beer, a Brandon beer. I don't think I had one since last year. It'll wash down the dust in the bull around here. Well, ain't it a little early for a Brandon beer? The crew moves in and the fire's lit. The boss lines out every man and kid. Daylight's burning and the irons are hot. You better get moving, first calf is caught. Beer break. Whoa, Brandon beer, a Brandon beer. I don't think I had one since last year. It'll wash down the dust in the bull around here. Well, hand me one of those Brandon beers. There's a young kid roping off a pretty green colt. The boss says, son, now you keep a good hold. There's kids and dogs, crippled old man, working all around my Brandon pen. But the propane tank, it had to hiss. The bug-eyed colt, he threw a fit. Kicked that tank straight to hell. He sent it ringing like an old church bell. Beer break. Oh, Brandon beer, a Brandon beer. I don't think I had one since last year. It'll wash down the dust in the bull around here. Pass me an ice cold Brandon beer. Now there's the calf we've been looking for. The last slick-eared, he's wild for sure. They'll stretch him out, safe and sound, but probably put the brand on upside down. Beer break. Whoa, Brandon beer, a Brandon beer. I don't think I had one since last year. It'll wash down the dust in the bull around here. Well, ain't we bowed out of those Brandon beers? Oh, Brandon beer, I don't think I need one till next year. I've washed down the dust, but the pull is still here. Oh, give me that one last Brandon beer.
Grab that front end. Where's that iron?
Oh boy, place we love to be in the springtime, the Brandon Pen, and washing down the oysters with our Brandon beer. Well, I dialed a number in Texas, and the great singer, songwriter, guitar player Chuck Cusimano is on the line. So, Chuck, let's go way back to some of your earliest memories growing up on the ranch.
From the time that I can first remember, and I don't know how old I was, maybe 3 years old, something like that, 3 or maybe 4. My dad was managing a ranch in Colorado there for a guy. We lived up in a big old canyon and kind of on the foothills of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. We're quite a ways out of town, and my dad had a Western swing band, and he played 3 nights a week in town, but then he 7-day-a-week cowboy too, and that's what I first remember growing up that way. So obviously, when my dad would play a dance, maybe on a Saturday night, us kids would get to go, and we'd fall asleep behind the piano, somewhere, and they'd make a little pallet for us to sleep, and I guess they'd carry us out to the pickup asleep. We never knew it. But next thing we knew, when we woke up, we were in our beds at home again on the ranch, and then, of course, ranch jobs changed. My dad never owned a ranch never owned any land till later on in his life, but we worked for other outfits, or Dad did, and we lived on those ranches and grew up that way. Dad and them guys in his band, they quit playing probably in 1960, 1959, something like that. Had a short, very uncomfortable experience living in town in Albuquerque, New Mexico for about 4 months, and I hated it. And my dad tried to work in town, and we were so miserable there. And he got a call from a brother of his that knew that the Box Ranch there in southeastern Colorado, a big, kind of a well-known ranch in that area. They were looking for a cowboy to move into one of the camps there. And so 3 of us outvoted Mom, and that's where we went. And we stayed there until 1965 when it sold. And then my dad went to work for another ranch for a period of time, and then wound up on another ranch for a period of time. I graduated from high school in 1966, and by that time I was playing the guitar and not singing at that point, just wanting to be a guitar player. But as far as me actually saying, oh yeah, I want to learn how to play the guitar, I was more interested in guns and horses and hunting arrowheads and
yeah.
fishing and camping out and that kind of stuff,
Well, there's more from Chuck Cusimano and a song about a pretty amazing ranch horse when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. One of the great Texas swing musicians and songwriters, Chuck Cusimano, is on the line from just north of Weatherford, Texas today. And Chuck, you've been playing guitar for a long time, but what really influenced you to get more serious about it?
In 1963, we were in one of the ranch pickups, the only one of the pickups on the ranch that had a radio in it. We were way back in the south pasture, and we were as close to Kansas as that ranch extended, and we could pick up KFRM radio out of Salina, Kansas, and I heard Buck Owens singing, they're gonna put me in the movies, and I heard that guitar playing in that
Oh,
song.
yeah.
I had no idea what it was. It was a Fender Telecaster, but I didn't know what it was. It was just that sound, and I said, I don't know what that is, But I want to learn to do that, and I want to do it every day for the rest of my life.
Oh, my God. Was that Don Rich that was playing that?
Yes, sir, it sure was.
Oh, man. So that's what turned you on to the guitar sound.
That's what made me want to learn to play the guitar. And my dad could play the guitar, the fiddle, and the accordion. You know, back in the old days of Western swing, there wasn't, in our part of the country, there wasn't any steel guitar players.
Really?
And so all the Western swing bands had an accordion player.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, my dad was teaching another boy on another ranch about 12 or 13 miles away. He'd come up every once in a while and bring 2 guitars with him, because we didn't own a guitar at the time, and my dad was teaching him to play the guitar, and so I got interested in watching where my dad was putting his fingers, and so I just kind of graduated into the lessons that way myself, and then later on, you know, I got my hands on a guitar of my own, and that was it. I just took off from there, and I was always writing songs, but I wouldn't sing them to anybody. I'd have to be off by myself, either horseback or afoot or something, you know, and I'd sing to myself, but not around people.
Did you ever know how to read music?
No, sir. It all looks like chicken scratches.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, it's funny. I've been playing music for a living now for 48 years. Although I was involved in music a lot longer than that, I've never been in a situation where they said, "Well, you have to read music to have this job." You know, because I played traditional country music and Western swing, and I just play by what they say, play by ear.
Yeah, well, so many of the great players can't read a note of music. You know, a lot of them that I know. They can hear a melody once, and they can play everything along with it and do the harmony, but they have no idea what it would look like on a piece of paper. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I know horses have been a big part of your life, and you've ridden broncs and bulls and broke quite a few real rank ones, so I'd like to get into that after a song here about a pretty good horse from Melinda Gale.
Oh, Dollar was a sorrel horse that stood just 15-2. But he was the meanest bronc the cowboys ever knew. Captured in a Mustang band out on the Nevada plains. That's burnt by sun and summer, never sees the winter rains. 1,100 pounds of muscle, bone, and hate. To be a great bucking horse just seemed to be his fate. And the cowboys that got on his back, he'd always buck 'em down. His fame, it grew bigger as he went from town to town. They never named him till one time at a rodeo. It was 15 minutes before they started up the show, when a cowboy said, "I'll bet a buck that horse if you can't ride." That one there without a name, strapped in that sorrel hide. Now that cowboy that made the brag was a tough one to be throwed. But the horse turned out the victor, 'cause the cowboy never rode. So they called that horse Old Dollar from that moment on. And the cowboys that got on his back, they didn't last too long. Dollar, oh Dollar. Dollar was the sorrel horse the cowboys couldn't ride. Dollar, oh Dollar. Picture of a demon strapped up in a sorrel hide. Cowboys were all standing just outside the announcer's stand, when a little girl unnoticed walked up to Dollar's pen. By the time the cowboys turned around, now it was just too late. that little girl was sitting on the top rail of his gate. As the cowboys watched, it made their jaws go slack. That little girl slid out the gate and on to Dollar's back. Well, he bowed up for a second and kinda settled down. Began to walk around like a gentle horse from town. Dollar, oh dollar, cowboys tried to ride him and most of them were good. Dollar, oh dollar, cowboys couldn't ride him but that little baby could. Dollar, oh dollar, cowboys couldn't ride him but that little baby could.
Linda Gale, and now getting back to Chuck Cusimano. And I do know that horses were a big part of your life, Chuck, for a long time.
Of course, I'd been breaking horses and starting to learn how to train them. You know, there's a little difference between breaking a horse and training a horse, or what we call in our part of the country, making a horse.
Yeah, yeah.
Starting with nothing, you know, just a young student of maybe 2.5, 3-year-old horse that haven't had hardly anything done to them, and you take them from that point to by the time they're 5 and 6-year-old, you can do almost anything with them, and they trust you and you trust them, and it's quite a job, and one that I'm extremely fond of.
Yeah.
I wished I could still do it. I'm not around horses right now at this point in my life, but up until about 15 years ago, I stayed connected with, I always owned horses from the time I was pretty small, and up until, like I said, about 15 years ago. The only night of the week just about that I wasn't playing was on Wednesdays, and there was no good team ropings to go to on a Wednesday, and maybe a practice somewhere.
Right.
And I was just not treating my horses like they needed to be treated, so I went ahead and let them go.
Yeah,
So,
you know, I know quite a few good musicians, guitar pickers that also love the team rope, and I also know a few of them that can't play guitar anymore because they left a finger in the roping arena. You know.
Oh yes, sir.
That must have been on your mind sometimes when you were running
I
this.
tried to keep it off my mind, actually, but I was always real careful.
Yeah.
And accidents happen to careful people.
Sometimes they do. Yeah. Yeah.
But I've been in situations out there in the pasture, you know, when you have to rope something, drag it in a trailer somewhere, get them home, because maybe they're not capable of, for whatever reason, driving them the 12 miles to the nearest corrals or something. And so the best method is just rope them, drag them up in a horse trailer, and haul them to either to the vet or take them to your home corrals and treat them there in the hospital.
Yeah.
Using a rope is kind of like stretching barbed wire. You know, you're always at risk of getting hurt.
Yeah, it will bite, that's for sure.
And the cowboy's job, you know, anywhere from being on a 40-foot windmill tower trying to change the oil in one of them boogers with the wind blowing 60 miles an hour, you know. And, I mean, there's a lot of danger in just the cowboy life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything except the music business. That's the only thing that could pull me away from being a full-time cowboy, you know, my entire life. And
we'll get back to Chuck in a little while, and next it's Baxter Black and a look at cowboys who really have a great way with horses, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at the horse trainer's dream.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you, to build on their foundations. At Corteva Agriscience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. we embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
Have you ever been driving a set of critters down the lane, riding the point, and then you notice them stringing out longer and longer, drifting over into the ditches alongside till pretty soon you're a half mile ahead of the lead steer? You look back at the feller you put riding drag, over the backs of the wandering herd, through the dusty haze. There he is. He's got his 2-year-old brown gelding spinning in a tight circle to the right. His outside leg is up on the neck. The colt's head is pulled to the inside, butt down and tail tucked in. Then the colt's nose is pulled down against his chest, and he's backing up in quick steps. You can almost hear the marching band. Suddenly, the horse and rider burst forward like Custer's charge and reach a gallop within a few strides. The cowboy's hands bring the McCarty nearly back to his own pockets. He leans all the way back. The colt's whole body tips back, head up. Front hooves leaving the earth, the hind legs stiffen and reach plumb up under the head. He sticks his butt nearly to the ground and skids to a sliding stop. The cowboy pauses, pats Old Brown, and gazes off, listening to the thunderous applause of the imaginary crowd. You crazy two-legged mare-riding maniac, get those cattle up here. Well, every outfit's got a feller who hired on to cowboy and gets another $50 a month to ride the colts. And the better they seem to be with horses, the more their attention seems to wander working cattle. Well, they can't help it. It's in their blood. They march to a different drummer, those folks. Some of them are so good with horses it's hard to believe they can't read each other's minds. And the pinnacle of achievement, the World Series, Super Bowl, and National Finals of horse training, is the All-American Quarter Horse Congress in Columbus, Ohio, every October. It's one of the most beautiful sights you'll ever see. Even the grouchiest, grumblingest feedlot foreman gets a little twinge to see man and horse perform as one. Ears twitching, nostrils flaring, romels, bosals, braided McCartys, rawhide, muscles rippling, eyes alert, horsehair, silver mane and tail. Well, if this sounds like a tribute to that strange breed of cowboy who's more at home on the back of a spinning colt than a dance floor, I guess it is. They say there's a place for everything. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by Corteva AgroScience.
Even in these challenging times, nothing gives ranchers more satisfaction than seeing mother cows and their calves happy and healthy, because we care for our cattle. More and more producers are using meloxicam oral suspension to minimize the stress on calves at branding time. And remember to use it on baby calves under a week old, because they feel pain the same as the older calves do. When it comes to keeping those baby calves comfortable, nothing provides longer relief than meloxicam oral suspension. Proven results and healthier, happier calves. To find out more, contact your vet and see solvet.ca. Solvet, your Canadian animal health company with a new state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Calgary. Just ahead of the rangeland news, here's a guy who's put a lot of shoes on a lot of horses around central Alberta. Marcus Summer and Low Rolling Plains.
In the low rolling plains of Alberta, the coyotes are howling their tune. In the low rolling plains of Alberta, spring is here and the wild roses bloom. In the tall lonesome pines of Alberta, I'll build up a log cabin home. In the tall lonesome pines of Alberta, I'll lay down my weary bones. In the small prairie towns of Alberta, folks are hard-working and rugged and proud. In the small prairie towns of Alberta, I'd like to show you around. Out in the Badlands of Alberta, saddle my dusty cayuse out in the Badlands of Alberta. I fill my cup at the Last Chance Saloon. In the high rocky peaks of Alberta, it's there I can be left alone. In the high rocky peaks of Alberta, I'll sing you my wandering song. In the low rolling plains of Alberta, winter comes 3 times a year. In the low rolling plains of Alberta, my heart will always be here. My heart will always be here. My heart will always be here.
The Rangeland News from the Spirit of the West. A roundup of issues and events from the world of agriculture.
At the top of page 1, it says, it seems like the analysts get surprised by the numbers quite often these days. I guess it happened again with the latest U.S. cattle on feed inventory. Here's Gary Crawford.
The second highest April 1st cattle feedlot inventory ever. USDA on Friday putting the number at 11.9 million head, up 5% from a year ago. Placements into feedlots during March, 28% higher than a year ago at 2 million head. Agriculture Department livestock analyst Shale Shagam says a couple of factors helping to boost placements in March. One of them, bad winter storms in February,
which probably limited the ability of producers to move animals into feedlots. So in March, we're probably playing catch-up.
Catch-up, a spillover effect. The other factor,
dryness, which has begun to appear in parts of the plains region. Forage supplies are limited, which might have encouraged some producers to move cattle into feedlots rather than keep them on grass.
Now, a 28% increase in placements sounds big, but Shagam says industry analysts were expecting about a 34% increase.
That may provide some upward lift to futures prices in the summer months.
This is Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
It seems that more graduates of veterinary colleges are opting to live in cities and treat small animals, and I guess that's where the big money is, and sometimes conditions are a little more comfortable than, say, doing a C-section on a heifer at 2 o'clock in the morning on a frozen side hill with a temperature at minus 20. Well, the Saskatchewan government has recognized the concern about the lack of rural large animal vet service and introduced several measures to entice more people to enter rural practice, and they include a new virtual option to train registered veterinary technologists and a loan forgiveness program. The government will allocate $687,000 to develop and operate a new virtual course at Saskatchewan Polytechnic. And the Western College of Veterinary Medicine has agreed to target 3 of 20 seats funded by the provincial government for students who are more likely to work in a large animal or a mixed rural practice. Sutter Glen Ranches of Alberta is one of this year's recipients of the Mark of Excellence Award by Ag Sites. That's a non-profit cooperative based in Elora, Ontario, whose services include herd management tools and genetic evaluation. Sutter Glen is the first Alberta producer to be given the award, which has been given out intermittently since 1994. Besides Sutter Glen Ranches, Lee Leachman of Leachman Cattle in Colorado was also chosen for the Mark of Excellence Award, and that marks the first time the honor has been given simultaneously to 2 recipients. Canadian Western Agribition has plans to be back with a full live event in Regina this fall despite the uncertainty of the pandemic and posting a significant loss in 2020. The 50th show will include 12 national breeds, the first time that all breeds will hold their national competitions under one roof. Next regular cattle sale at the BC Livestock Co-op Kamloops Yards is May 25th. You can get all the information and see the sale streaming live at bclivestock.bc.ca. And I just noticed that last week cow-calf pairs were averaging $2,050 in Kamloops. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market regular cattle sales every Wednesday, May 27th, it's the Rocky 4-H Beef Online Steer Sale, 7 p.m. on liveauctionstv.com. And on Saturday, May 29th, there's a special Longhorn sale. Get the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And to book your cattle, give Danny, Mark, or Dwayne a call at 1-800-710-3166. And by the way, last week at Innisfail, cow-calf pairs ranged from $1,500 to $3,050. Okay, now down to the final item, and since it was over 3 weeks since Billy and I got our COVID shots, I figured for the first time in over a year, I'd venture into Wal Mart with her to help her get groceries. Now, I try to follow the rules and stay out of trouble, but boy, it didn't go well. The shopping cart I picked really needed a wheel alignment. It pulled hard to the right, and somebody had done a lot of work painting directional arrows on the floor up and down the aisles, and the cart veered to the right, and I got a ticket for going the wrong way. So I backed up fast to get going the right way, got another ticket for getting within 6 feet of another shopper. And then Billy checked her list, and she said, "I see we need toilet paper and coffee filters." I said, "One or the other, we don't need both." Well, the worst part came at the checkout. I'd pulled the cart around to the end of the counter and started putting the groceries in. By now, you know, my hearing's not that great, and the clerk was, of course, wearing a mask, and I thought I heard her say, "Would I like to get a free Netflix pass?" And I just mumbled no and kept on putting the stuff in the cart. Then she pulled down her mask and yelled, "I said, get back behind the plexiglass." I just couldn't seem to do it right. That's the Rangeland News, and still to come, you'll hear Chuck Cusimano's original version of the song that we did on YouTube, the one that actually got us connected. And Chuck will have the story behind the song, and the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File is next, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Our mission is to help our clients sell their equipment in the most effective way possible. People who are looking at our auction, they are literally all over North America. Once we take somebody through a process from start to finish the first time, they get it. You know, it's very simple. It's more simple than they think.
Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. I can't wait to have you hear Chuck Cusimano sing his own version of one of the best modern cowboy songs ever written, and he will be in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight today as well. But right now...
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Borders are closed. Staying home. What'll we do? Oh, yeah, what we always do, hop on a horse or take a sunset stroll. How about a hike off the beaten path, capped off by a blazing bonfire under the stars? That'll do just fine. This spring, Urban Tack and Western Wear has everything you need to tackle the outdoors. Hiking boots, jackets, flannel hoodies, like I said, everything. Stop in soon, exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield, or shop online at urbans.ca.
Canada's largest Western store.
Last week I talked about safely leading 2 or more horses from the ground or from the back of another horse, and we left it where getting on your saddle horse might be easier if someone else holds the horses you're going to be leading until you're in the saddle. Then let's say you're going along fine across a nice big pasture, and then you've got to get off and open a barbed wire gate. Well, this can be tricky with one fidgety horse, and much worse if you have 3 of them. If someone else can hold the horses you're leading while you get off and swing the gate open and let them go through, it should work. But if you're alone, there are ways to do it safely. Fortunately, there are lots of trees in our part of the country, and I'll usually tie the horses I'm leading safely to their own tree. No, not to the same tree, separate trees, where they can still easily see each other. And then I'll swing the gate wide open and lean it against the fence, lead my saddle horse through, and if I know he'll reliably ground tie, I'll drop the reins, walk back, and bring the other 2 through the gate, tie them safely again while I close the gate, then carefully untie them, lead them back to my saddle horse, hold both of their shanks in my right hand, and get back on my horse. Now, I've done this hundreds of times, and I've still managed to get things tangled up once in a while. So only do it this way if
your saddle horse is sound, safe, and quiet, and you know what you're doing. What's that? Oh yeah, if your saddle horse won't ground tie, well, then I'll use my get-down line to tie him to a tree. One more thing, I'll never tie a horse to a post in a barbed wire fence. All they have to do is paw the ground once, and they can get a front foot over the bottom wire, and then there's a good chance of bad things happening.
And for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear, that's the horse training file. Our horses get a daily feeding of Hoffman's horse ration. They both get the senior version now, and I know that it's helping them stay healthy and happy, and you can find out all about what's in it at hoffmanshorseproducts.com. The way the Canada Revenue Agency deals with ranchers and farmers has changed a lot in the last few years, and the financial decisions we make today can have a long-lasting impact on our bottom line far into the future. It really helps to have a trusted professional who really understands your situation to guide you with all your accounting requirements and your tax preparation. Having an accountant who knows the difference between a Hereford and a heifer, what a slick and backgrounding are, and that Alfalfa and Timothy are not just names from a storybook, really helps. Kathy McMillan of PMT Chartered Professional Accountants understands the intricacies of specialized programs like Agri-Stability and Agri-Invest. She understands the demands on your time and can help you spend more time doing your job and less time dealing with endless piles of paperwork. See PMTaccountants.com or call toll-free 877-383-8081. A few years ago, Jim and Mike and I, the Western Spirit Band, were on our way to do a show somewhere, and I was playing a CD with some songs that we were checking out to see if they'd fit for us to do. And we came across R.J. Vandegrift's version of one called We Were Cowboys. And we all agreed that, boy, there's one we have to learn. And we did, and we loved doing it live on stage. And a few weeks ago, we posted a YouTube video of the three of us doing that song, and shortly after that, we got a real nice note from the composer, Chuck Cusimano, saying he really liked our version. And you know, I'd never heard his original version until Chuck and I connected just in the last couple of weeks, and I figured you should hear his version and then hear the story behind why he wrote it.
We saddled our ponies, rode to big prairies. We suffered through winters, we choked in the dust. We baked in the ovens of countless hot deserts. We lived all the hardships that all cowboys must. We bathed in the rivers of mountain spring waters. We rode the bad horses, there's all that we had. We made meager wages and lost them to strangers, and we never considered we got treated bad. And oh, we were cowboys. We rode out of camp, single file. Whoa, we were cowboys. Thank God we were cowboys, at least for a while. Thank God we were cowboys, at least for a while. We got up at midnight for our turn at Nighthawk. We slept on the ground when we slept at all. We had hardtack and jerky and our Buckles coffee. We stayed with the wagon from spring until fall. And oh, we were cowboys. We rode out of camp, single file. Whoa, we were cowboys. Thank Thank God we were cowboys, at least for a while. Thank God we were cowboys, at least for a while. We're being replaced now with pickups and feedlots. We're fighting the battle against progress and style. We're moving to cities and working in factories, but by God we were cowboys, at least for a while. And oh, we were cowboys. We rode back to camp single file. Whoa, we were cowboys. Thank God we were cowboys, at least for a while. Thank God we were cowboys, at least for a while.
So, Chuck, what led you to write that wonderful song?
Oh, seeing, the way I grew up when we didn't have a horse trailer, before progress come in, living the cowboy life where you got up and you left the home corrals about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning and getting a long trot and head, 8-10 miles away and get to the back of a pasture and try to be there about the time the sun's coming up and start gathering your cattle so you could get your work done that day. To seeing people working cattle with four-wheelers and dirt bikes and the deterioration of the cowboy lifestyle, knowing what it was 185 years ago. I became a team roper after I quit riding saddle broncs and bulls. I went from a flat rope to a round rope, but I grew up with a rope in my hand as a kid anyway. So the question was, the reason I wrote the song was seeing kids showing up at ropings with their ball caps on. And to me, if you're going to play cowboy, dress like one.
Yeah.
Respect the cowboy lifestyle. It just always just made me mad to see these granddaddies and dads letting their kids get away with wearing tennis shoes and a pair of stirrups. That's dangerous.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the thing is, even on television, you see an airplane pilot that does things his own way instead of following the rules. They call him a cowboy. There's nothing to do with a cowboy.
I hate that comparison. That negative connotation of the word cowboy just gets my blood boiling. You don't understand what cowboy means. You have no idea.
And people, don't realize how much respect and
exactly
manners that a true cowboy has around women and children.
For sure.
We don't cuss in front of women and children. We don't say bad words in front of women and children. Now, you get us out in the pasture and a cow gets away from us, you're liable to hear anything.
Well, of course, but
and talking to each other in the corral, we might say anything. But you get us around public, and we use our manners that we were taught, because you get the bridle reins if you don't.
I have felt them. And next week, we'll try and bring you the Western Spirits version of Chuck's great song, We Were Cowboys. And Chuck, we'll get you back one more time in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight after the classic Song of the West for this week, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Chuck Cusimano has a masterpiece for the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight coming right up after this week's classic Song of the West. And Bob Wagner recorded this one quite a few years ago. It kind of reminds me of our little place sometimes. I can't find out much about the song, but I do remember hearing it when I was a kid. 1,000 acres of nothing.
My ranch is one lone cow, a well gone dry and a broken plow. My ranch is one lone cow and 1,000 acres of nothing. 100 miles of fence, the feed's no good, but the dues immense. 1 million tons of sand and 1,000 acres of nothing. I'll face the sun and won't see my shadow, ride my old horse with a busted saddle. I've got my range and the blazing sun, and herding my cow just has to be done. My old cow just had a calf, now I got me a cow and a half. My herd has room to roam on this 1,000 acres of nothing. My ranch is mortgage free, the bank just didn't agree with me. Said they wouldn't lend me no cash on my 1,000 acres of nothing. And I'll tell you something else, I had me a real garden too. The trouble was tumbleweed was the only crop it grew. Heck, even the dang jackrabbits detoured round my 1,000 acres of nothing. I'll greet the dawn, and when I awaken, my old stove smoking, my breakfast baking. Tomorrow's troubles are years away, and there's a million stars at the close of day. My cow's got a wistful face, staring across at my neighbor's place. But I'll be a cowboy yet on my 1,000 acres of nothing. Oh, sure, it's true, all right. There ain't much out there. But when I sit on my porch of a warm summer evening and watch a big yellow moon rising over that beautiful Nevada desert country, with a lonesome wail of a coyote yipping way off in the distance, I know I'm home, and that's where I'm gonna stay. I may only have a cow and a half, but I'm gonna be a cowboy yet. Out here on my 1,000 acres and nothing.
Well, Chuck Cusimano is back in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight this week, and it's called What Kind of Horses?
I'd like to dedicate this to all the good cowboys gone. Another good cowboy is gone, so I guess Lord must be moving his herd. He took a man we all knew and respected, and he left without saying a word. I hope God's got horses and saddles up there, 'cause this feller left his stuff behind. I hope that his pony don't step through a cloud, but he probably ain't riding that kind. He had his share of knotheads down here on earth. Now he deserves all the best. Hope that the Lord will make him segundo, for he knows a lot more than the rest. We taken his saddle, turned out his horses, and we tied up his bedroll real tight. took all his personals to his sister in town. And we drunk to his memory last night. We'll surely miss him come roundup this fall. Someday the talk will subside. And I'll always wonder till I'm called to go what kind of horses I'll ride. What kind of horses does God give his cowboys? Are only the best chose to ride? Are they picked for their colors, their bloodlines or markings, or judged for the scars on their hides? Is it up to each man to pick his own string? Is it up to the boss to decide? I'll always wonder till I'm called to go what kind of horses I'll ride.
Well, thanks again for making the ride, and I sure hope you can be right back here next week at the same time. Chuck Cusimano will be back with a lot more of his cowboy adventures and songs, and it'll be well worth hearing. And we couldn't get this done every week without the great support crew we have, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And you know, if you need parts for your tractor or tractors, any make, any year, Mark can help. Just see his page, bctractorparts.com. And if you enjoy this, I know you'll love Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. Subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com, and I hope you can check out our YouTube and podcast versions. Most of our past shows are there on our YouTube channel, and if you decide to like and subscribe to it, that would help us. Get the links at our website, hugh-mclennan.com. Till next week, I am Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.